Welcome to today's SeafoodNews.com video, sponsored by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute.
There's more fish produced in the world than there is beef, and most of it comes from the ocean, either in the form of capture fisheries or increasingly aquaculture.
1/4 of all ice-free land in the world is already used for grazing livestock, and the world demand for protein is growing. Replacing fish harvested from the sea with animal protein from pigs, cattle, and chickens could require new farm and ranch land 22 times the size of the world's rainforests. The richer the world gets, the more protein we consume. The more protein we consume, the bigger the threat to our environment. What role can sustainable seafood play? And does the drive to establish marine protected areas really improve our oceans?
Almost all eco-labeling would consider the more areas you put in marine protected areas, the better. But we know that if you keep closing the ocean, the food has to come from somewhere, from either the land, where it may be rainforest being cut down, or it'll come with rich countries who manage their fisheries well, importing the food from countries like China and Vietnam and Thailand that don't. So the net marine impact of marine protected areas in the U.S. will probably be negative. The sustainability of the global environment will actually be lower, but if you only look at the local marine ecosystem, you'll say, oh, this is wonderful.
In many parts of the world, seafood is the only source of local protein. And the act of fishing is also a part of people's cultural identity. Most global policymakers now argue that the environmental community needs to concentrate its efforts on areas where fisheries management is neither robust nor science-driven.
The sustainability of fisheries is pretty closely related to how the countries manage their fisheries, and country of origin is probably a really good guide to which fish you can buy with the assurance that it's sustainable. U.S. law is basically set up saying you can't overfish anything, so I will buy fish from the U.S. with quite a bit of confidence. Australia, New Zealand, Iceland, Norway, these are countries that manage their fisheries well. The eco-labeling systems assume that there's no connection between what we do in the ocean and what we do elsewhere. There's no consideration of the alternatives to, if we don't eat fish X and we eat beef, is that better or worse for the global environment? You have to maintain the natural system in order to keep providing the benefits, but we're trying to sustain the ability of people to use natural ecosystems to produce things that we want, particularly food.
Today's SeafoodNews.com video was brought to you by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute. Alaska has been protecting wild and sustainable seafood for generations and adheres to the most recognized and internationally accepted set of guidelines written by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. For recipes and additional information, visit wildalaskaflavor.com.